Hello and welcome. I'm Andy Hodges, and this is the Leadership Talk Show. This broadcast is brought to you by ZimPaper's TV network ZTN and our partners, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ, and Old Mutual. Leadership is both a research area and a practical skill, encompassing the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals, teams, or in fact, entire organizations. Zimbabwe is full of such leaders, yet one area of concern is that they may not pass on their leadership skills to future generations. Our guests will share their leadership stories so as to inspire you, the next generation of leaders. Now, who will be our guest on the Leadership Talk Show today? Well, you just have to find out and wait. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Leadership is both a research area and a practical skill, encompassing the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals, teams, or in fact, entire organizations. Zimbabwe is full of such leaders, yet one area of concern is that they may not pass on their leadership skills to future generations. Our guests will share their leadership stories so as to inspire the next generation of leaders. This is what the Leadership Talk Show is all about. Now, our guest today on the Leadership Talk Show is a well-known business leader. He holds a Master's of Business Leadership, MBL, from UNISA School of Business Leadership. He is a Chartered Accountant, CAZ, member with a Bachelor in Accounting Science Honours degree, Certificate of Theory in Accountancy, CTA, from UNISA, and a Bachelor's in Accounting Science degree, BComt, Distinction in Accounting, again from UNISA. He started his leadership journey as an audit manager at KPMG before moving to Mbada Diamonds Private Limited as finance manager in 2010. He joined Sinvac Group South Africa in 2013 as Group Finance and Administration Manager before joining Zimplow Holdings Limited in 2014, first as Group Financial Director, rising to his current role as Group Chief Executive in the same organization. It is my pleasure to welcome to Leadership Talk Show the Group Chief Executive of Zimplow Holdings Limited, an institution listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, which is the largest manufacturer and distributor of farming implements in sub-Saharan Africa, Mr. Vimbai Nakuchka. Vimbai, welcome to the Leadership Talk Show.
Thank you very much, Andy, and I'm glad for having you, for having me here on your platform.
Well, it's a pleasure having you, sir. Now, Vimbai, let's start with the hardest question of all, if I can call it that. What, in your opinion, is leadership? What skills do you believe are necessary to be a great leader?
Thank you, Andy. Leadership is about the people. It's when you're a leader, you need people around you, and when you're a leader, you need a vision, and you need people around you to be able to follow or to participate in the vision that you are pushing for. And as a leader, you need to demonstrate that ambition towards that vision in such a way that people naturally feel obliged to work with you. And in terms of the skill, really, I can't particularly say that there is this one skill or these universal skills that you need to be a leader. You need to naturally understand what people or your colleagues or the people that you're working with are looking for in their different lives, so that you can be able to meet them at their point of need. You can be able to share the values or to be able to push them, motivate them in the direction that will meet your ambition and vision.
Let's have a look at your career. I mean, where did your leadership journey begin? Can you give us any highlights and milestones that you encountered in your leadership journey?
My leadership journey began at KPMG. I think that was the starting point. You know, when you are a young man, in fact, I joined from A level to do my articles at KPMG. And when you're a young man like that, you are sort of like nurtured by the environment around you, where you are coming from. And when you join a firm, a professional environment like KPMG, you are meeting new people, people who have got different backgrounds to you. And therefore, those backgrounds seem so important that they appear to be the key thing that validates the people that are around you. But as you go on with that journey, or as I went on with that journey, I realized that we were all trying to achieve similar things in life, similar objectives, a similar ambition. And in that process, I began to realize my attributes or the things that I desired to define me as I went on with my career.
I mean, a lot of guests that we've had in Leadership Talk Show, they talk about how this auditing background, because a lot of leaders today are auditors or chartered accountants, and it appears that this articles and working in auditing firms seem to really give this sound basis for leadership.
That is correct. That is correct. So when you join a firm, you are wide-eyed. You are thinking, you are wearing a suit, and you're thinking, okay, I'll be doing all this fancy stuff. And the first responsibility that you are given is to prepare tea for the team.
Yeah.
Is to clean the audit, the audit office or the audit room. So it's a very humbling experience. And once you begin to realize or to appreciate those little things, those little tasks that you are given, you start paying attention to detail. And the more you then grow in the profession, because you then start to be assigned to more bigger tasks, meeting key executives in organization, being experienced to different organizations, you start to learn the different attributes that make different organizations, different careers. So I believe that's the most important part of becoming a leader.
Nice.
Being exposed to different situations, being exposed to different people, and being able to relate or to portray yourself in good light with the people that you'll be working with.
You know, when I was looking over your CV, it appears that your career journey seemed a bit seamless. You know, you went from one good job to the next good job and so forth, and to your current one at Zimplow. But I can't imagine that your journey was easy in all of that time. I mean, so was it easy or difficult?
Andy, I think when you look at the CV, definitely it will tell you a story of probably success, but it hasn't always been easy. I have been high, I've been very low in my career. I think after KPMG, I joined a well-known organization, BADA, and I did well. I managed to do a lot of things, but after that, it wasn't always as easy as it might seem. In terms of that journey, you start to know yourself, you start to know the things that define you or that makes up your identity. At KPMG, it was more of a professional environment where everything is done by a certain standard, you subscribe to the same values. But when I transitioned to go into the industry, it was like a jungle. I was meeting people from different professions, people who had different views to life, different from what I had, people of different ages. And in that process, trying to harness their energy, trying to create something together with this group of people, it wasn't easy. Nice. You know, when you're a leader, you are focusing on an ambition, you are focusing on a vision. But for you then to make everyone realize that the choices that you are making are good for everyone, it's not always easy. You become very unpopular easily with people if you stick to your objective, if you stick to your ambition. But you know what, you have to learn how to endear yourself to people, how to make sure that everyone toes the line or follows in the direction that you would want to go.
In fact, that takes me to my next question, because you know, the issue of learning what I would call soft skills appears critical to becoming a good leader. For example, as you said yourself, a good listener, a good motivator, excellent analytical traits are just some of these. So how important is, in your opinion, is it for future leaders to learn these so-called soft skills?
Well, if you want to work with people, if you want to be a leader, you have to work with people. You have to understand what everyone brings to the table. And in that process, like you have referred to them as soft skills, you need to be able to relate. And you need to be able to be relatable as well to people, so that there is a connection. There is a point where it becomes easier for people to open up, to criticize you objectively, to be able to share thoughts with you. And in that process, you can get to know more, you can get to hear the true, the honest views of people. And the most important thing is being a good listener, like you have said. The most important people is to be able to express yourself,
yeah.
so that people can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
So that's part of being a good leader. So those kind of things, obviously, for me, it hasn't always come easily. I had to work on certain areas of my life. I had to work on certain skills. It's a practice. It's a journey.
Yeah, I mean,
that,
you always read things about leaders are natural. There's natural leaders and so forth. But a lot of people have to work hard at achieving some of the skills of being a good leader. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And also, as you've said yourself, it takes a team to create a good leader, and you get the right people to do the right jobs to reach the right objectives. I think these are critical. Now, one issue where I suppose a lot of people start learning soft skills is in the educational background, and there's a lot of debate about the role of education. I mean, if I look at your educational background, you're a chartered accountant by training, you have leadership skills training, etc., and it's obviously carried you in good stead during your leadership journey. But the question of education, or the type of education that future leaders should pursue, is becoming very topical, especially in Zimbabwe. What are your thoughts on education, and what advice would you give about education to future leaders?
So the thing with education, you know, like you said, I'm an accountant by education or by trade, but over the years, you know, when you get into organizations, accountants tend to be dominant in conversations, in meetings. And at the end of the day, it's sort of like made me realize, when you get to be labeled to be, this one is an accountant, you then get to start to understand the different educational backgrounds. You then try to start to learn what experiences others have gone through in their different educational backgrounds. And what I've realized, the common thing is that whatever education you have, there are principles, there is a science based on whatever education you have. And those principles tend to guide you, tend to be the compass that will direct your future decisions, or the way you make decisions in future. Regardless of which educational background you have, you always need to stick to those principles that you first learned. Like I said, I'm an accountant. There are certain principles that I learned when I was going through my accounting journey. But now I'm in an organization which is more technical, where I need to be providing technical advice to my customers, where I need to be providing technical guidance to my staff. So in the process, I tend to rely on those principles. Like in this particular case, there are engineering principles that I have to use. There are laws that are founded on engineering, on science that I have to use. But the accounting background, the accounting education that I have, it's always a compass. It's always a way that provides me the direction, the way I make decisions from an engineering perspective. I don't know if that is very clear, Andy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think at the end of the day, future leaders shouldn't ignore education, but they should have a good educational background, but also at the same time open their minds to continuous learning, I assume, throughout their entire career.
That is correct, but whatever, like if you are in animal science, or if you did animal science at a degree level or a tertiary level, then you get into an engineering field or into another field that is different from engineering, or into business. You always use the principles of probably animal fattening to create a profit formula. Or to interpret accounts, to interpret how the business is working. So whatever, the advice that I would give is that whatever education you might have, you always need to understand those principles and make use of them in such a way that they, or you become the best in terms of applying those principles to the real life.
I'm with you. Okay. Vimbai, I want to ask you specifically about future women leaders. I mean, they say that the corporate world is a man's world. In Zimbabwe, only 24% of women hold positions in major organizations, and even less have reached top leadership positions. What advice would you give to young women future leaders on how they can or should break this so-called glass ceiling?
Like you say, and maybe in the past, that percentage of 24 was a lot less than what it is now. But it came from a concerted effort by everyone to try and include the women into the corporate world. And you know, everything about society, it comes from the way we were raised, and we are mostly raised by our mothers. Yes, our fathers will be present, but our mothers, the women in society, are the ones that raise this society, or that creates the people that then forms the society. So in that process, I would say, as women go through or raises their children, especially the girl child, they need to ingrain the right values, the perspective that the world is changing, and there will be need for more women leaders, even in the corporate environment, and they need to they need to be trained at such an early age, as such that they can be able to be more of them as time passes. And to those that are already grown, or the girl child, the people that are aspiring to be leaders, you know, there will be a lot of responsibility that will come the way of the woman, of the girl child. There will be chores, there will be circumstances in the household. There will be a lot of factors that will affect their career growth. But just with any leadership principle, you need to stick to your ambition. You need to stick to your vision, and be able to prioritize the things that sets you apart,
right?
Or that creates that path for that leadership journey that you aspire to get to.
I like that. Keep going. Don't forget your ambitions and your career objectives. You're watching the Leadership Talk Show. This broadcast is brought to you by Zim Papers TV Network ZTN in partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ. Vimbai, as a leader, what are or were your key success factors during your journey? I mean, for example, you talked about a career plan and set goals. Obviously, then you must have had those.
100%. So what I would say were the key success factors are that at a tender age, as early as I was 15 or 13 years old, I was in Form 2. I sat down with my brother, and he was just giving me some bit of career guidance. And he said, young man, you need to be focusing more on the commercial side. There are various career paths that you can follow. You can be an accountant, you can be this. Then obviously I started looking for information about what kind of career I would like to follow. And I settled on being an accountant. And after that, I studied further of the different accounting roles that are there in the business world. And I stumbled on chartered accountants, and I learned of a very few individuals that were chartered accountants that had achieved success in their careers. And from that day onwards, I wanted to be a chartered accountant. So it was my ambition to be a chartered accountant.
Right.
And that ambition made me to search for ways to become a chartered accountant. So the critical success factor there was the ambition, or setting yourself a goal, a plan. And when you have got a goal or you have got an ambition, most of the things, they sort of like tend to gravitate towards that goal. The other thing is hard work. You know, if you want to be successful in whatever you are doing, you always need to burn the midnight oil. You need to put more hours into the things that you do.
It's true. I mean, the leaders of today, they think that, they see people making money instantly. It's not like that, is it? Hard work is critical.
100%. Hard work it's always critical. And I started putting in the hours. I started putting in the hard work in trying to define my career journey. And the other thing also that I felt was important when I was coming up was having the right people around me, the people that would guide me, the people that would push me. At some point in time, along the way, I went to an interview with Ernst & Young, and I didn't make the cut. I felt demotivated, but I had good friends that knew my journey, that knew what I wanted to be. And they motivated me to start applying again.
Right.
And the opportunity with KPMG came along, and the rest is history.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because one question I wanted to ask you was about how to deal with failure, because everybody has to meet failure at some point in their career. It's inevitable. So how would you recommend that future leaders out there deal with getting knocked back a bit and having to get up again?
Well, Andy, you know what? If you want to be a leader, you need to push boundaries. You will need to take a risk. And in the process, you will definitely sometimes take more than the calculated risks, and you will fail. With failure, you have to, I do not see any other way than to grieve, than to mourn those failures that you would have experienced. For me, in terms of processing those failures, I do kind of a Forrest Gump kind of approach. I run. I tend to put myself in a secluded place so that at least I can process my emotions. And that's how I've faced failure in my journey. And you know what? Once you have processed your thoughts, your emotions, you then need to look at what made you to be in the position that you are in, or what caused the failure. And you need to be very objective. You need to appraise yourself objectively so that you map out the best strategies, the best plan going forward, and you become true to yourself in terms of the things that, or your capacity, your abilities, and what you can do. And like I said, I've got an ambition, I've got a vision of what I want to be. So in terms of achieving that vision, I have to be very committed to it. Despite the failures, I need to be very committed to my vision. So as much as failure is there, I always need to remind myself of what I want to achieve
And
at the end of the day.
and they always say that, you know, failure also is a learning experience. It isn't just failure. You know, Vimbai, you mentioned something just now which I found very enlightening. You talked about how when you were 13, your brother sat you down and said, young man, you know, what are you thinking of? What's your future? Because a journey is never done alone. And so, I mean, bearing that in mind about your brother, but also about your family, how important is or was the support of your family to achieve your position where you are today?
Well, I'm a family man. Family has been very important to me. I think it has been the key constant since I began to talk, or I began to be self-conscious. So my family has been the pillar of strength. I mean, like any other Zimbabwean of my generation, most of the people of my generation, we came to Harare. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We were we were brought up by our extended family. We were raised by the various people that were close to us, and so family has been that important to me, to the extent that they supported me during the time that I needed them the most. They were there to even pay for school fees, even to get me to where I am today. And whenever I feel a bit lost, you know, being a leader, being in these demanding roles, you sometimes need inspiration. In fact, you always need inspiration every day. Yeah. You need to show up. And the one thing that my family, my brothers and sisters, my cousins, even my own family, they have always reminded me of where I'm coming from. Yeah. They've always reminded me of the journey that I'm onto. And therefore they have remained the key inspiration in everything that I do. I have managed to wake up every day and show up.
Yeah. I tell you what, family does keep you grounded. I really did like that response. Let's look at the other side, outside of family. The issue of building networks and even having mentors appears critical in today's world for future leaders. What are your thoughts on this, your brief thoughts on this? And do you think it's important for future leaders to build or have such networks or mentors?
Well, when I was coming up, like I mentioned, I didn't have many friends. In fact, when I was coming up, and when I was about A level, when I was about to get to think of the journey in which I was going to achieve this CA profession, I started to look at the attributes that are required to become a CA. And one of them, you needed to be a team player. You needed to know people, if I can call it that, to understand people. And for you to be able to be positioned or to be close to those firms, you needed to know someone. You needed to connect with people that can give you the guidance. So the thing that I learned is that you needed mentors. You needed a network of people to guide you or to push you in the direction that you want to go. And you can't do without a network. Even in business, as a leader now, I can't do without my own network. The people that will give me the intelligence, the market intelligence, what's happening in the sectors that I play into. And the key people that have been important to, in fact, I've had 5 good guys that have, not good guys per se in that sense of things, but people that have showed me or that have guided me and held me to be where I am. The first one is Brian Jigisana, the managing partner of KPMG. In fact, he's a smart guy. He knows how to manage risk, to choose his battles. And the second one is Thomas Chataika. He's an investment manager, the managing partner, he's the managing director of Investside. He has got presence. He actually enabled me to be able to express myself better.
Right.
And the other two individuals I worked with at Mbala, Robert Klanga and Dave Castle, those guys taught me not to take any prisoners in situations that.
I like the way you're smiling in remembrance. Now, Vimbai, we're running out of time, but my final question, and I have to ask you to be brief. What advice would you give to future leaders? What should they be doing now in order to become or prepare to become Zimbabwe's future leaders, the leaders of tomorrow?
Well, they need to be thinking about what they want to be. You know, one thing that I always say is that you need to have an identity. You need to have a desired ID or a desired person that you want to see yourself as. For instance, I would like to be known for being a person who makes decisions based on science, based on principles, based on metrics, based on models that have been proven to work. And that's how I've defined myself, even to my colleagues. And I would say for those future leaders, they need to know the person that they want to be. They need to define their ambition. They need to define their vision or the person that they want to see. And the other way you can do that is to follow, is to have mentors or to have people that can inspire you,
right,
that can direct your journey.
This broadcast was brought to you by Zimpapers TV Network, ZTN, and our partners, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ, and Old Mutual. Well, that's it from me today. I'm Andy Hodges. Goodbye, and please, you all be safe.